Start recording. Hey, what's up, y'all? We're in here for a different type of video right now. It's gonna be a very long video, but we're gonna clip it to make it shorter and understandable. And the video is called Stolen Legacy. And so we basically, for the most part, students in the classroom learning real, true African history. And it's, in this case, pertaining to Egypt, Kemet. And I think it's very important, we both think it's very important for the world to get a broader understanding of African history and what African people have accomplished and contributed to society. And this is not on a biased take, this is actually based off real facts that we are going to later come at you from different angles, because you must fully encompass all this information to build on it, to get a solid foundation of understanding of it. But we're going to start off light today with just this video, Know Thyself. And I'm going to let my guy start his own intro so y'all can see the introduction.
And we're hoping this dispels a lot of alien, also mystery, the mystique they've tried to paint on Africa and all of the artifacts and everything. We don't know how anything was created.
No,
that's all documented.
I love it.
So anyway, sorry, I had to throw that in there.
I love that.
It just drives me nuts where they're trying to make everything such a mystery.
About Egypt, right. When the Greeks and the Romans, they feel like, well, the most documented, they documented everything. Weren't the Romans Egyptian at one point and the Greeks? So they recorded this stuff.
You go to any museum in Europe, you're going to find out all about African history.
African history, right. They even wrote about African people.
They stole all their stuff.
Right. And in modern knowledge, especially over here in America, they don't really teach us this at all. People don't really know about this stuff at all. Most white people and black people over here in America don't know Egypt is in Africa. That is amazing, right?
It's actually in the continent of Africa. It's
in the continent of Africa.
Go figure, right?
And go figure, right? And that Upper Egypt is actually southern Egypt, because so that's even further down where Sudan is. Think about it now. All right, now. Okay,
anyway.
Right. We taking y'all to class. We supposed to be the students.
Right. All right. We'll listen.
Let's continue. All right, let's continue. And remember now, you gotta have a flight ticket for this type of knowledge right here, and a drink
and a beverage.
So kick back, relax. We're gonna try not to intrude too much, unless it's like purposeful knowledge. It's just something we gotta get off our chest about our frustration with society. So yeah, let's go.
Go.
Magnum opus. History, I like that. I gotta start off with the track for that. Know thyself, hope. Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself, hope. Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself, hope. Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself, hope. You know what I'm saying?
The victorious will often attempt to wipe out every trace of their enemy's existence. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of lost civilizations that have succumbed to collapse, invasion, or amalgamation, and a plethora of lost languages. Miseducation and indoctrination has long been a tool of conquerors to influence the...
I just gotta say, I'm so sorry. The plethora of lost languages is so important to understand, because I've been studying this thing called dialect continuum forever. And you will find out that even like Hebrew languages and like the Latin languages and stuff all come from Nilotic and Semitic languages. And these languages, if you date them back, they are African languages. Phoenician. Like Hebrew is Phoenician. Check it out. He might not mention it. He may mention it. Check this out. The history of language tells it all of the history of African roots that they cannot erase, because the hieroglyphs also came from Africa, not the Middle East. But I digress.
Hearts and minds of the population. Join us as we dive deep into the primordial waters of antiquity to uncover a truth that has been hidden from humanity.
And I love that he said primordial waters, because if you listen to science in the beginning of, especially quantum physics and science, they talk about the primordial waters, the primordial liquids, the goo, the atoms, the
form
molecules that created everything. Yes, they created everything. Know thyself, ho. Know thyself, ho. Know thyself, know thyself, know thyself, ho. That's what it is.
Here we go. Look at the pyramids.
You'll find out a lot of the language used back then in Kemetic times are very similar to today. That's why English is very interesting. You got netter, you got mother nature. They just added vowels, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyways, let me speak. I love this stuff.
He does. It's his jam.
It's my jam.
All right, 6. Stolen legacy. Is that
Heavy
turn up a
title.
little?
Heavy title.
Akhenaten, or
I'm
one who
trying.
serves
Don't say
Aten, was a pharaoh
No,
of the
I'm good.
18th dynasty of the New
It
Kingdom
sound
of
wrong.
Egypt, formerly known
good.
as Amenhotep IV. Lasted 17
Oh, shit.
years, ending in 1334 BC. He was also the father of the legendary King Tutankhamun and the husband of Queen Nefertiti. Akhenaten was labeled the heretic king for abandoning the Egyptian pantheon and introducing the ancient world to monotheism. This radical new religion worshipped the sun god Aten and was considered blasphemous by the priesthoods. In these ancient times, Egypt was known by its original name, Kemet, or Kem. The Kemetic gods were not gods, so to speak, but rather nature spirits, or Neteru. They represented
Nature.
many different
Nature.
elements of nature,
Chem.
or nature,
Chemistry.
expressed in various forms.
Chemistry.
Nature.
Akhenaten's
I
new
love it.
form of worship would focus solely on the sun. Nefertiti ruled by his side, and together they embodied the principles of divine masculine and feminine energies. They conducted themselves by the sacred laws of Ma'at, which emphasized truth, justice, balance.
And I want ladies to pay attention. Masculine and feminine energies, divine in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Ladies, Christianity has X'd you out of the picture.
It has.
It is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. So pay attention to this now.
And morality. Although their enigmatic sculptures and reliefs have captured imaginations for eons, some still labeled his actions as heresy. Upon his demise, succeeding pharaohs destroyed Akhenaten's temples and defaced his statues. They reinstituted the role of the priesthood in traditional form of worship, but ultimately, their attempt to erase King Akhenaten was a failure.
Hey, and I got to just stand up for Akhenaten for this one time. Even though a lot of Egyptians, pharaohs back then tried to erase him, this dude was really onto something. The sun is the greatest element to life, to existence. You feel me? So that was the first monotheistic religion. They tell you the oldest monotheistic religion is what, Hinduism, when we looked that up.
Yeah,
But in
according to
actuality, according to Google, that is a lie, because what we looked up afterwards is, why does Google say that Hinduism is the oldest practiced monotheistic religion? It's because practiced. They don't practice Aten or the sun.
It's a way of life.
We don't look at the sun as a religious figure anymore. No one practices it, they say. I know they're ignoring all my Hotep brothers out there, I know, but they're ignoring y'all, and they're trying to say that this religion isn't widely practiced anymore. So they lie and erase us and say that the first monotheistic and the oldest monotheistic religion is Hinduism. So they erase Africa. The goal is basically, in the end, to erase Africa from the origins of anything. But we're learning here the first monotheistic religion was Aten, Akhenaten. All right.
Here we go.
This is but one example of history being erased, but this theme has been repeated over and over again for millennia. Under our current system of capitalism, this strategy was instrumental in the Western world's rise to glory. A new tactic was employed for the first time in recorded history, which was chattel slavery. Slavery has existed since the beginning of time, and indentured servitude has been employed widely. But this new iteration of slavery was extremely cruel and barbaric by comparison. During the 15th and 16th centuries, European royalty was vastly outnumbered by commoners and slaves. In order to maintain power, they created a caste system to keep people divided. It is in this space where European elites conceptualized the contemporary concepts of class and race.
During the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other before we figured out there were other people to kill. We
That's your brother right there? That's your brother?
just killed each other.
No.
Right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that
They
Southern
still
Italians
do.
were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, in the colonies,
In America.
the colonial elite, looked around and they
America.
realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another or they're going to rise up and take our stuff.
And I just want to say, I'm not going to continue, but you know what? 'Cause that's true, because why? For the white folk who were indentured servants compared to the black slaves, we had more in common than the rich slave owner. And even to this day, the middle class and upper middle class white people, we have more in common. Poor black people have more in common with them than a trillionaire or a billionaire or even a multimillionaire. We have more in common with you guys than these multimillionaires who pretty much know that they are outnumbered and pretty much know that they're the reason that we getting overtaxed and they getting undertaxed. All the extra yada yada.
Right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote-unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people.
And that is called supreme understanding.
Yeah.
Right? So ultimately, the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans.
In order for this new form of slavery to operate smoothly, they had to completely dehumanize Africans, so they were seen as nothing more than animals. They had to convince the world that they were savages and had no culture or civilization. They did this by creating the myth of the Dark Continent to justify colonialism and legitimize the enslavement of Africans. They created the term sub-Saharan to suggest black Africans were only present below the Sahara. But if you
Which doesn't make any sense at all, because I hear sub-Saharan so much today thrown at me, even on Facebook and stuff. I'm like, dude, sub-Saharan, so below the Sahara, that would even count with what, maybe Mali Kingdom and stuff, so the richest man ever. And then, like, it's just so, why are you separating Africa?
It's
an entire
dumb.
continent. Yeah, it's dumb. You don't do that for Europe. Where are the sub-Saharan Europeans? I mean, where are the Caucasian, the sub-Caucasus Mountains Europeans? That's what a European would be. That's what the Middle East would be.
Right, like there's some wall that separates the lighter skin from the darker skin.
Right.
In a whole continent.
That was just a geographical difference. The time change and climate change that created the Sahara.
Created by man.
Yes, and
Lies
think about
created by man.
For white people who understand, so smart, understand science and geographical locations and sciences and stuff like that, longitude, latitude, why don't you understand that the Sahara was created just over time, climate change and weather patterns to create that? How the heck does that correlate with intelligence or race of being or like even like importance of human?
Right.
Like, how does that make you more human that the climate changed where I was and didn't where you was at? Make it make sense. But anyway, I digress.
look closely at the historical record, you will see that they are in fact indigenous to the entire continent and prevalent within the Mediterranean as well.
Still there.
When referring to black Africans, the term sub-Saharan is also slightly inappropriate for the period, which is why I'm not using it, as black people weren't only present south of the Sahara Desert, and there is a lot of evidence for that. In the classical period instead, the Mediterranean is seen as an unifying sea, used and exploited by Greeks and Phoenicians, just to mention a few, to colonize, but also to trade. The Mediterranean Sea is a connection to Africa, not a barrier. Now, because of this, the Cretan world had a documented presence of black people, which we find in the Minoic civilization, and the same can be said also about the Mycenaean world of mainland Greece.
I just love this dude outfit. I love it. He's dressed like a European, you know what I'm saying? Maybe like, well, I don't know if it's Viking, I don't know what age, but he's still telling the truth, because why back then, there was a time they weren't so dang on racist. They just traded with black people. And they just complimented black people when they came to Egypt and was like, yo, civilization looks like it was thousands of years ahead. These people wear gold. These people tall. They look good. All this, you know what I'm saying? We have the proof. It's documented. And so look, it's okay. We're not hating on white people or their culture. Be you, bro. Like, this is brilliant. I love this. Y'all have art. White people have art. They have brilliance. They have great things to, you know what I'm saying? We all work together at one point. So we need to look more at that side of white people, not the antagonistic white people, because those were the people who are, there's like 1% of those people, you know what I'm saying? And the rest of y'all are just people who are tricked, like current day MAGA people who are tricked into taking the wrong side of history. So yeah. It's okay to be you. Everybody be you. I'm with a Viking right now.
Know thyself.
Know thyself.
We see black individuals in Minoan representations of the Bronze Age, and because of the extreme diversity of representations, musicians, warriors, traders, etc., we can understand that they had entered fully into the Minoan social fabric. And as we said, we have a very similar situation with the Mycenaean world, starting from the 14th century BC, and by the 9th century, this would be commonplace.
Modern concepts of race and ethnicity can be tricky because the ancients did not consider skin color the source of identity. The term
Exactly.
black, as it is regarded today, denotes race and was created to sow division. In the old world, your tribal ties or nation state was the dominant factor of how one viewed himself and others. Skin color was but a superficial trivia.
Darwin essentially suggested that in order to say that
I was literally thinking Darwin. I'm not gonna
a
continue.
species was subdivided
That's really
into subspecies, which would be the equivalent of races, that the populations involved would have to be almost incipient species. Okay, so a high degree of substructure. I can tell you that you cannot use the idea of any difference or being able to tell a difference either at the molecular level or physical level as indicative of or requiring the use of the term race. So I say there are populations, but no races, and I'm not the first person to say that. All of these people are connected to each other, and dividing them in a way that implies a level of discreteness that the term race implies is inappropriate. Where there are people with darker skin, lighter skin, curly.
Oh, I just do that. Say, I don't know if he's a black anthropologist, author, or whatever he is, but he's saying the same exact thing now that white scientists and white people have been saying forever. There is nothing that, well, good white people, I'm assuming good, that nothing divides race. There's nothing biological, anything that's dividing race. It's just groups of people, and that's based off your geographical location.
Right.
Yes.
Race is a man's construct.
Thank you.
I mean, 100%. We all know that.
Totally.
It's just,
Yes. He got melanin, I got melanin. You feel me? Built
I just have
differently
less.
because his ancestors come from a different part of the world
right.
and been there for so long. Same with me. My ancestors come from a different part of the world and been there for so long.
We're made for different regions. I wouldn't survive in Africa, and
I wouldn't.
so-
I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't survive in some of the
the
parts of
cold, the
America.
mountains. So
Exactly.
it's anyway. It's called evolution.
Right? Evolution. And some
Anyway.
Right.
Your hair, less curly hair, yes, there were. There's no evidence that they had a theory of human variation that would be commensurate or similar to notions of race as they were developed in Europe.
Western
So in Europe
academia's
concept.
anti-African sentiment has contaminated the fields of Egyptology and anthropology. From their very inception, these institutions have been rooted in racism. In 1912, German archaeologist Ludwig Burchard discovered the
This is a real first-time reaction, real reaction. So I'm trying my best not to speak ahead of time and say something that he's basically going to say.
famous bust of Queen Nefertiti in a region of Egypt called Tel El Amarna. It would later be unveiled to the general public in 1923 at the
Is it the
Egyptian
fake
Museum
one?
in Berlin,
I was
in Germany, and became
Yeah, since you asked.
There's a lot of fake.
They dated it already.
artifacts.
It's fake. Well, notice her nose is perfectly intact. Not even a chip on it, but everything else is broken off. Not even a chip.
the
she's
standard
looking
of
total
beauty
European.
and a cultural symbol for
Super
Berlin
European.
and Egypt alike. However, the
Let
sculpture
me not paint one eye. Maybe that'll get him.
That was the damage.
has been the
Right.
subject of heated
Look
debate.
at this thing. Hey, let me break off the ear. Remember they said the noses, when ISO Speed went to Egypt, didn't they say the noses were the most brittle part, which we
Right.
already knew was a lie? Look how brittle this chin is. Look how
Right.
brittle her face is. And look how brittle her nose is.
Right.
That's the most brittle nose in Egypt. And yet it didn't break off.
And many scholars have gone on record to question its authenticity. After 20 years of research, Henry Sterren, a Swiss historian, made the shocking revelation that the bust of Nefertiti is actually a fraud. And in the documentary, The Mysteries of the Nefertiti Bust, he lays out the compelling evidence.
What first made the academics suspicious was the exceptional state of conservation of Nefertiti's bust when it was discovered. The object was incongruous. It bore no resemblance to any other 3,300-year-old busts from Egypt. I have no doubt in my mind that this is a fake, a copy, a phony.
During the
They
Second
tried
Reich,
to,
the Germans were coming
make a
up.
narrative.
The object was
to make it
incongruous
look like
and
they
bore
were
no
more
resemblance to any other 3,300.
European looking and then African looking.
Yeah,
all they
try to
did.
recreate the narrative. Right?
Yeah, recreate.
Year-old
They
busts
look
from Egypt.
European. They
I've no
look
doubt in my
Arabian or
mind that this is
Saudi Arabian, not African.
Right, anything
it's a
but
fake, a
African.
copy.
Anything but.
So that was a good comparison, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good
phony.
comparison. You're so right.
During the Second Reich, the Germans were coming about with a philosophy to justify further expansion, colonialism, and imperialism. And in an attempt to do that, they claimed to be the discoverers of many sets of different artifacts. One of them being this
You discover
pen.
people.
But in fact, what it was something created at the time or just afterwards to justify their ideas of colonialism and imperialism.
Exactly.
This was far from an isolated.
And one thing I got to say, you're right, it's far from an isolated incident, but this is one thing I got to say that too that y'all must pay attention to. Always pay attention. The Egyptians in the striped headdress that they had, it was filled with hair, dreads. That's why it bows outside, and why if you look at the back, it's wrapped in a ponytail like a do rag. You know what I'm saying? Look at all the Arab and white people wear the headdress, and it's all flat and flimsy and all flapping in the wind and stuff. That's proof right there. They don't look like the statues, do they? Throw some fat dreads in there or some hair, some afro hair up in there, and it will fill out the shape of the headdress that you see in on the caskets.
Right.
Think about it, huh? It's all clear as day.
Incident. In 2018, paleo artist Elizabeth Days unveiled a facial reconstruction based on the fraudulent Nefertiti bust, which further Europeanized her features. And in 2005, Dr. Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of
Oh
Egypt's
my
Supreme
God.
Council of Antiquities.
Oh my
See, I hope they show the clip of him saying that Egyptian or anything but N-word with the hard R, and definitely not like what you see in America. I don't even know why he would even say that when the Mali Kingdom was just literally west of Egypt, where they got us from. You know, most West Africans. Let's be real. Look at stuff up now. We came from West Africa, most of us, Nigeria and all that stuff. Mali Kingdom. This dude right here is a straight blatant racist. I don't even know how he even knows the hard R word. You're over there, and I didn't even know they use that word over there, man. Let's be real.
He is the one that keeps total control of everything that comes out of Egypt. You find a tomb, he's there to shut it down. He doesn't want to change the narrative that Egypt was created, had black people, had Africans there. This guy is a mess. He is a menace, and I can't wait till he's done and he's not part of this. Maybe a lot of truths will come out, but he has hidden the truth. This whole Egyptology thing is a bunch of bull crap. Anyway, to begin with, he's the one that's got this narrative going. Anyway, that's
What's your take on it?
my hot take.
That's a hot take.
Announced the results of a digital reconstruction of the face of Queen Nefertiti's son, King Tutankhamun.
What's he looking special? He looks special.
You look special, man. Boy, your balloon ass head. Boy, no chin having. Boy,
why is his nose wide up here? The narrative.
Boy, he would have been running. He would have been walking on this right here. Boy, head move forward. Boy, get out of here with that. Boy, how can you eat with that chin, boy?
However, the relief on the back of his royal throne.
Look at the real Nefertiti. When they put Nefertiti on the wall, let my dude talk. Let me
His wife, Queen Ankhesenamun, shows a dark brown skin tone and features that resemble populations found in modern-day Sudan and the Horn of Africa. With discrepancies so glaringly obvious, one has to wonder what other liberties have been taken behind closed doors.
They got their Spirit Halloween costumes.
A concerted
Spirit Halloween. We should pause on that photo, man. They can pause it. Y'all can pause it.
effort has also been made in Hollywood to whitewash ancient Kemet. Television and film have promoted the idea of a European Egypt for decades. But when we look at the temple walls, we see a melanated population with a variety of skin.
Look at brown skin, dark brown skin.
Right, different shades of brown.
It's Hollywood.
They whitewashed. Pale.
Tones and hairstyle.
Come on now, did they have sunscreen back then? Think about it. Look what they're doing in Europe right now. They're melting. Think about it, y'all. How on earth would they have survived back then in Egypt and Africa?
Such as afros, waves, braids, and locks.
They just show waves on those damn Egyptians.
And those are their actual hair. These aren't head coverings. These aren't things they created or hats. These are actually their hair.
Right. They had to create hats to mimic when this is the real hair. So, but these people faking it when they use their hair, they faked it. What the hell?
Indeed, the discovery of the Rosetta Stone and translation of the ancient hieroglyphs, originally known as Medu Neter, made Western scholars rethink their narrative. The newly transcribed inscriptions revealed an advanced culture that had attained an exceptionally high level of development. They coined the term sub-Saharan Africa as a way to separate the genius of Egypt.
Ben understood the wheel. Ben understood the circle. Ben understood geometry. Same way all your philosophers and even Moses and Jesus said they learned everything from Egypt. They learned all the science and all that stuff, Pythagorean theorem, all that from Egypt. But there's reasons why they didn't create things that destroy nature as well. You know, we don't go into mysteries and all that stuff, but you know.
From the rest of the continent. So began the attempt of scholars to remove ancient Egypt from Africa.
Many of the early archaeologists came to the study of ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia from the perspective of Semitic languages or the study of the Hebrew Bible. And it was very important to them to bring Egypt specifically into the sphere of biblical studies. And so
And I heard a few things from this lady. I just got to say, white people and black people are like, listen to these type of people. These are the scientists you need to listen to. Not the Darwin people, not the Marxists, not the crazy people, or the claviculars, or the people who just, all the Fuenteses. Listen to real scientific white people who aren't racist. They could really help you get a better understanding of humanity, the history of humanity.
they had to carve Egypt away from Africa to bring it into that sphere. And the way that they did that was they used race. So these early archaeologists effectively made ancient Egypt white in the sense that they made it part of a dominant Western culture. And ancient Nubia was separated from that. It was black. And this was how they took Egypt out of Africa and put it into this Semitic sphere,
But notice they try to separate Nubia from Egypt. I want y'all to right now, if you got the time, you probably on your cell phone, do it later. Look up Nubian pyramid homes, because Nubia is where the Egyptians got most of their gold from. A lot of their language, but also the pyramid architecture.
Their houses were pyramids.
Their houses that they chilled, slept in. Yes, were freaking pyramids. People, look at it. Look, Google it.
So
now.
when you're going to build a monument to a tribe or a nation, you would build it similar to your home. So they built pyramids that look similar to their homes.
Think about it.
We have a house and we have our White House.
Right.
But the White House is like a big house, like a mansion.
Right.
So hello, it's the same concept.
Right, exactly.
And it's not a mystery. They built it. No aliens.
Exactly. The obelisk y'all built in Washington. That's not a mystery. Aliens didn't build the obelisk.
The obelisk is from Egypt.
Exactly, it's from Egypt. Come on.
biblical sphere.
Anyway.
They classified Egyptians as Caucasian, and this classification was given to modern Egyptians immigrating to the U.S. Dr. Mustafa Hefni, a self-proclaimed black Egyptian, points out the irony of this racist and deceptive practice.
I came to the U.S. in 1978, and I became a U.S. citizen in 1985. When I became a U.S. resident, I was told by the Immigration Naturalization that I'm white. And I told them that I'm black, and they said, no, in this country, you are white. All Arabs in this country, all Arab immigrants are white. The attitude towards me changed completely after I went out publicly and rejected my white classification. In 88, I was told by him that I get people angry when I say that I'm black Egyptian. If I just...
So he's a black man exposing the system right there.
And he's supposed to claim himself as white.
Because it came from Arabs. So the whole focus back then was a focus to erase black people from Egypt. They cared about Egypt so much. Remember, that's what Europe makes like over 52 million, probably in the billions of money from tourism to go and see what Africans made in Egypt. This is very important, like the cancer industry, to protect and keep this lie that black people had nothing to do with Egypt, but also that Arabs and white people built it. Because if I'm a white person, if I'm going to Egypt, if I'm going to a museum to spend all this money to go see some shit, y'all better be telling me that black people, geez, what? Built this, built all this? No.
Why did they find out the Bible's from the black?
Yeah, well, yeah, like right? Where did they find all this? Oh God, we go to oh God.
Say that I'm Egyptian, I will get along. We don't have Egyptians of European descent in Egypt. We have a population which is basically a mixture of ancient Egyptian blacks who intermarried with Arabs right after the Arab conquest. The ancient Egyptian population was brown and black before the Arab conquest. But before the Arab conquest came the Greeks. It was the ancient Egyptian population was in Egypt for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptian population was brown and black. And the Greeks came in 300 BC. And they started to intermarry with the local population. And then the Romans came and ruled from 70 BC until they were conquered by the Arabs and kicked out by the Arabs in the 7th century. And these people intermarried with the Egyptian Copts, and they made the pigmentation of the Egyptians, the Copts, much lighter because of this intermarriage with Europeans.
Those pharaohs, right?
It makes sense.
Yeah,
Images
right.
of Nubians being captured and defeated in battle have been used by
They're
some
explaining all
to
of this.
suggest Egyptians
So this is where they get it from when racists try to make the point that we were just slaves in Egypt. Like we didn't create the structure, like the Nubians created the architecture and the religion. So this is what we mean when black people, when we say black people started Egypt, all we're saying is that black people created the architecture and the systematic religion and the way it operates. It's all we're saying. The thinking process of Egypt. That's what all we're saying.
Right, exactly. Thanks.
had a natural hatred or hostility towards Nubians in general. But when examining the archaeological evidence, we begin to see a story that is much more complex.
Because the ancient Egyptians had an official view of many things, and this is the view that would be put up on the walls of temples and on the walls of the tombs of the elites. That was an official, let's say, state-sanctioned view. That bore little to no resemblance to what people actually may have thought. It was the official view. So when you look at Nubia as depicted on the walls of temples in Egypt, you will see Nubians being crushed under the chariot wheels of the king. You will see Nubians being dragged back to Egypt enslaved.
Propaganda. That's
What
how
we
they do
see on
now.
the ground in terms of archaeological evidence is quite different.
Did you hear this man? This man just said it's propaganda, just like how they do now. And they use ancient propaganda against us the same way they did back then. You are your ancestors. Everybody is the ancestors.
Know thyself.
Know thyself. Know thyself. Hope. Know thyself. Know thyself. All right.
Had Nubian names, people who were using Nubian material.
Matter of fact, all right, you know what? We're going to end it right there. We're going to have a part 2 to this right here. We were supposed to end it way earlier, but this was way
so
too good.
interesting. Yeah, we got totally caught up in
We
it.
love learning. We love knowledge. Right now, this camera is doing whatever it wants to.
Oh, it did. It moved on us.
Right?
Hello, we moved in it.
So
moved.
thank y'all for listening. Please tune in for part 2.
Bear the boy.
Track for that. Know thyself, hope. Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself, hope. Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself, hope. Know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself, hope.